Some of you may know that I originally moved to Chicago in part because of the inspiration of Mayor Washington's campaign. And he was there in Chicago when I moved there more than 2 decades ago. And for those of you who recall that era and recall Chicago at that time, he understood that ultimately power comes from people. And that if you are working at a grassroots and people trust that you are fighting for them, then there's nothing you can't accomplish. And I'll never forget how in those painful days after his ultimate death, I saw a sign with his picture on it that had the words, "His spirit lives on." And as I look out at all of you tonight, I know that on this night, in this room, the spirit of Harold Washington lives on.
That spirit lives on in the Chicago chapter of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators. Founded in 1986 by the late Mayor Harold Washington, it represents one of his many outstanding legacies. The National Forum for Black Public Administrators is one of the nation's premier professional membership organizations dedicated to the advancement of African American leadership in the area of public service. Valerie Jarrett, Senior Advisor and Assistant to President Barack Obama, who also served in the Harold Washington administration, represents that excellence in public service and speaks to the importance of it.
First of all, there is no greater service, I think, than public service. And in everyone's career, at some point, I encourage folks to serve in government. I think if you grow up in a community, and I grew up in Chicago, I love this city, and so the years that I spent in government have been the most rewarding of my career by far. And so when you're serving in government, your goal is to serve as best you can. And you can't really come in, even from the private sector, and think that you know everything there is to know. And so to have a network that can provide you with opportunities for development and excellence while you're there and grow while you're in city government is really part of what the organization does.
Carl Bird is president of the Chicago chapter of NFBPA. Carl knows that all this couldn't be done without a dedicated staff and the support of the corporate community.
We're all in this together, and a rising tide lifts all boats. We have to start utilizing and tapping into the talent and the brain power of individuals all over. We can't just limit ourselves and say, you're the private sector, you do what you do, we're the public sector, we do what we do. No, there has to be some exchange. There has to be a bridge. There has to be some coming together under common goals. Either the private sector and the public sector are going to have to come together and solve some of these issues that are facing our cities.
Ellen Roselle Turner is a fixture in Chicago's corporate and charitable communities, including the Chicago chapter of NFBPA, where she serves as corporate advisor.
Well, even in these, this economic downturn, I mean, the leaders that are members of this organization are making critical decisions that affect all of us. We have to continue to support this organization, and it's a two-way thing. We look to the corporations of the city to help advise us. They have great ideas that we can bring to the public sector to help us better run government.
Our corporate partnership proposals provide sponsors with access to the nation's history makers and future leaders in public service. We will deliver on our promise through innovative programs, through our signature events like the Marks of Excellence Award Celebration, our annual scholarship golf tournament, where to date over 90 scholarships have been awarded, and our Holiday Initiative Project.
Happy holidays, Miss Beth,
where we make Christmas a little more special for grandmothers raising grandkids. Again, all of this is possible because of our corporate partners. NFBPA's marketing proposal offers sponsors an opportunity to deliver their message to a target market of affluent African Americans. The countdown to 2011 begins now. It's also a homecoming for the local chapter, as 1986 was the last year that the national conference was held here. Chicago is second to none as it boasts an impressive roster of renowned administrators from every corner of the public service sector. These individuals are determined to make Chicago the #1 city in the nation. As NFBPA moves toward 2011, it can count on the support of the area's leading public elected officials, especially Mayor Richard M. Daley, who is pledging the full support of his entire administration to ensure that conference goers will want to return to Sweet Home Chicago. Chicago ranks as the nation's capital for black businesses. It's home to some of the world's biggest corporations, but when it comes to black business, it's in a class by itself. As home to the nation's 44th president, Chicago will build on its reputation as the nation's transportation hub and hotel destination showcase. For the 2011 conference, NFBPA Chicago has partnered with the Sheraton Chicago to cater to every need conference attendees may have. Chicago is the stepping capital, so there's no shortage of places for conference attendees to get their groove on. When it comes to sports, the city has it all. Chicago is a cultural capital featuring world-class museums and performance venues like the DuSable Museum of African American History and the Harold Washington Center for the Performing Arts. And there's Broadway in Chicago. The fine dining offerings feature a plate for every palate, and you can shop till you drop along the Magnificent Mile. So as the clock ticks toward 2011, NFBPA Chicago has set the foundation and established the alliances that will make its 25th anniversary and hosting the national conference an experience that will set the standard for the next 25 years to come.